So, ladies and gentlemen, we currently have, that's right, CJ Graham. He has graciously agreed to allow us to interview him. So, welcome to the show, CJ. Thank you so much for joining us. And my first question, I'm gonna just jump right into it. I know that you spent 4 years in the military. I'm wondering, what branch of the military was that?
I spent 4 years in the Army. I was there. I was in the Army 45 years ago. So if you calculate the math, 74. So I'm what you consider Vietnam era. Vietnam was over in 75. We started bringing troops home in 72, 73. But the conflict, the campaign wasn't actually put to rest until April of 1975. So we are categorized as Vietnam era / Cold War. And the reason for that is to be a Vietnam vet, you have to have stepped on soil. So there are a lot of, Vietnam era soldiers because Vietnam actually started the conflict in 1959. Steve Dash, good friend of mine that passed away last year, played Jason #2. Steve was in the military in the early 60s. He spent his time in Germany, and he would still be considered Vietnam era.
First and foremost, I want to thank you so much for your service to our country. You were actually from 74 to 78. You were in the military. I was born in 74, so that goes to show you how young I am.
And how much more hair I've got.
I know,
right? How ironic is that?
And
you look the same as you were when you were born, buddy. Bald.
pretty much, pretty much, yep.
Slash.
I gotta say, you look totally different with the beard and the long hair.
Yeah, we just finished a few months back that just came out the fan film Vengeance, and I was honored. They asked me to play Jason Voorhees' father, Elias, and it was the first time anybody has ever seen Elias Voorhees other than a comic book or in the storyline. And so for me to characterize growing a beard for 4 months, and they used the real cool looking wig that was put together. Even though it's a fan film of quality, I'll always be the original only person that's ever played Elias Voorhees up to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of jumped ahead with the Vengeance conversation because that was coming. But since we've already touched on that, they came to you and asked you if you would do it, and obviously you agreed. And I gotta say, I watched that movie probably 5 times back to back. I'm a crazy Jason fan, not like psychotic crazy, but well, I don't know, maybe.
I watched it twice with you.
And your role was phenomenal. I mean, for a fan film, I can't even say for a fan film, because to me that wasn't just a fan film. That was a very, very well done film.
Yeah, I think Jeremy Brown, Jason Brooks, and Dustin, they all worked for a couple of years to put it together, and they shot about a year, I would believe, in the making of shooting. And I've got to give them credit because they went out and they sought some actors and actresses that could enhance the film, like Steve Dash, Tom McLaughlin, the writer director of Part 6, myself, and they brought people in that wanted to participate in the franchise for the fans more than they did as a monetary reward, because a fan film is funded by the fans. What small fees they were going to give myself and Steve Dash also, Steve and I agreed to just donate it back to their cause, which was the Shriners Children's Hospital. And so for us, it wasn't about the money, but the fans that have been so loyal, that legion of fans for the 3 going on 4 decades, and to be appreciative. Like you said, you were barely born when I was in the military. With all due respect, I have people come up to me today that are 8, 9 years old that are just in awe about Jason. That's another generation coming through in another decade that'll be expendable income that they can go out and actually buy their own photos and things and continue to watch the series. So for me to participate, it was really nice. The Jason character is always going to be Jason. Jason Brooks stepped into the role this time. But the Elias Voorhees is a new character, and I think the fans are going to embrace it. And the fan film concept, you could categorize it as a fan film, but the technology that was used is equal and better in some ways than your normal studio technology. They did have a couple challenges with the first showings of it dragging audio, like we're having a little bit, and that's just technology sometimes when it's at its best. But once they get everything to mirror up, it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. like I said, I watched the film 4 or 5 times back to back, and I'd pick up all these neat little nuggets here and there. But I thought the whole film was awesome. I mean, yeah, there was a couple of things that if anybody asked me for my opinion, I would definitely there's some things that I would change, but not like change the entire. I think it was awesome that they ran with the Elias Voorhees concept, because they only touched on that subject in Jason Goes to Hell, and sorry, not sorry, I absolutely hated that film.
Well, I will say that my understanding was originally I was just going to be a character in the background periodically that would be seen from a distance to keep that aura going. For whatever reason, Jeremy Brown and Jason Brooks, who worked on it, as did Justin, they decided to start writing it in where I ended up killing 5 or 6 people. The character just grew on them as they were writing the script. Everybody can be an armchair quarterback. It's easy to talk after the play. When you're in the heat of the battle, it's not as easy. I mean, I've seen some things that I say, oh, it's too bad they missed that opportunity. But at the same time, it's not my film. That's not my decision. I was given an opportunity to step into a role. I am not the editor. However, everybody can say the quarterback should have done this or that after the fact, but neither one of us were in the heat of the battle.
Well, and you're spot on there too. I mean, I've seen comments on both sides of the fence when it comes to Vengeance. Most people received it very well. They think it was very well done, and then I've heard some not so pleasant things, and I've wanted to jump to the defense of Vengeance, but then I have to remind myself, hey, this is America, and everybody is entitled to their opinion. If you don't like the film, that's fine. Don't like the film, say what you will about it. You're entitled to your opinion. Just don't be derogatory about it when you're critiquing it.
Well, I think, again, everybody's an armchair quarterback. To critique it, you've either got to get up and go do your own.
Right.
Or you sit back and say, that was cool. They had some guts. I couldn't have done that. I know a lot of people that can't sing worth a crap, and they get up and do karaoke. But you know what? You ain't going to catch me up there doing karaoke no matter how good I am. So I always say, I don't have the guts to do what they're doing. So God bless them for getting up there without the voice. Yeah. So I have a very similar opinion. So I don't critique. I could critique the heck out of films if I wanted to, fan films and films. That's not my career. I'm an outsider looking in through the front porch. And, if I wanted to be engaged that heavily, I would be a producer or a director or a screenwriter. I'm not.
Absolutely.
Well, you're a hell of an actor, and it was good to see that you were in a film where you actually had some lines. I mean, I know you've been in other films where you've had lines, but I'm saying in a Friday the 13th setting where you were actually able to speak.
Yeah, the nice thing about it was the character really wasn't, it was more of a subdued character. There wasn't supposed to be a dynamic energy. In fact, it's maybe 10 steps above Jason as a character, with the same motion, the same disposition, but chosen words. I always kind of refer back to a Rambo. Rambo doesn't say a lot, but what he does say, you get it.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, let's see. Great, we got company. So, how long have you been an actor, CJ?
Well, I started, I got this part in 1986. And it wasn't a career choice by choice. It was a career by accident. So, am I an actor? I think every career is acting. I don't care if you're a doctor selling cars. I don't care if you're doing landscaping. You have to act. You have to present yourself to sell the product that you have to deliver. I just happen to be of mass quality, 6'3", 250 pounds, and a little cocky. And I was not a stunt man, and that's what they were looking for. However, I had the physicality, what they were looking for, and I felt confident I could deliver on the stunts. Thank goodness the stunt director, who's a stunt man himself, Michael Nomad, and Tom McLaughlin, the director, had the same confidence in me that I could deliver, a no-name stunt guy to, have my back set on fire, be underwater, breathing off regulators, going through doors and doing all these different stunts without hurting anybody around me.
That actually leads to one of my questions that I was going to ask.
Please go ahead.
Did you get injured at all during the filming of either Vengeance or Friday the 13th Part 6?
If I did, I don't recall. And part of it was because you're on such a high when you're doing this, you don't feel the fact. I don't recall really getting hurt other than bumps, bruises. Of course, when you're 20 feet underwater breathing off regulators all night, you're cold. Being set on fire, it's much more dramatic to some people that have had to do it on the ground. I was like almost up to my butt in water. So they gelled my back up, and I would step back, light myself on fire, and come to a point where I felt I was cooking, and I just dumped myself underwater, and I was out. So I didn't have to rely upon anybody else for my safety at that time but me, which is kind of a nice safety valve, so to speak.
Yeah.
But other than bruises and bumps and a few this and that, you know what? I was really the person in control because I was picking up the actors and actresses and throwing them around. And they were much more of a stunt person than I. They trusted me, and that was the cool part. I mean, they physically trusted me to throw their face into a camera, to physically lunge a real knife at their head and stop it, so then we could go to a dummy knife and reverse it. So when you think about that, I mean, the actors and actresses I worked with were very transparent and very confident in my ability, which just added to my hand and eye control.
Right.
Now,
They're very trusting.
Very much.
Now, if you watch Friday the 13th Part 6 on Hulu, or not Hulu, Amazon, they have these little trivia things that pop up on the screen, and I wanted to call Amazon and say you're wrong, because they swear up and down that the knife that you used in that scene was fake. And I was like, no. I heard it come out of CJ's mouth himself that was a real knife.
Yeah, the knife that we used up until I stop it in front of Tommy is a real knife. Yeah. After that, everything is put in backwards and I pull it out. So up to that point, it's a real blade.
Wow.
And throughout the film, I carried a real blade that was in my pouch.
And you, if I'm not mistaken, you actually still have that knife in your possession, don't you?
I have that, and I have one hockey mask from the opening scene, the James Bond scene I've kept.
Nice. So, let's see. So, was Friday the 13th Part 6 your first acting job?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I know the story of how you got the gig as Jason. You were a bouncer at a nightclub. Is that correct?
It's close. I was I was the general manager of a 15,000 square foot nightclub, and every Thursday night I had a hypnotist on stage, which was one of our acts throughout the week. And the hypnotist decided to bring in an outside filming agency to film his show so he could put together a promotional tape so he could put it out there to get more jobs, maybe go to Las Vegas with his show. This is before hypnotists were what they are today, technically on the Las Vegas Strip. And his name was Jack. Well, Jack happened to hire a company called Real Effects, REEL, Real Effects. It just happens Real Effects were the people that did all the special effects for Part 4.
Oh, nice.
And when they came in, they said, hey, Jack, let's add a horror part of it, and we'll use CJ, look at his big ass, and we've got the wardrobe from Part 4, Ted White. And the rest is history.
And that's how you got the part dumped on you.
Right. Well, and to be fair, and I always say full disclosure, I was up with another gentleman for the part. I originally didn't get the part.
Wow.
Yeah, I see your eyebrow going up. Not everybody knows that. I didn't actually get the first part. It was another person who was a full-blown stunt man. However, when the dailies came back, the one scene that the person that was in they weren't overly satisfied with the performance, the way it projected, the physicality on stage. And this was on a Friday. I get a call to come back to Paramount Studios, and by Monday morning, I was in Covington, Georgia, putting on the wardrobe to assume the role.
Because now, if I'm not mistaken, that's because they did not find the other actor or stuntman to be as imposing or as intimidating.
Well, my understanding was, again, the physicality was not there when the person was on stage, and wasn't delivering what they felt they were looking for. Again, their interpretation is priority, not mine. My physicality is a little different than most. I mean, I'm big. I walk naturally like a soldier. I enter a room as though I own it. Some of that's because I'm 6'3", 250.
I don't see too many people trying to step up and say, you don't own the room.
Yeah, well, here's how that, and so I look at it as being one of those things. Now, the one scene where you see the paintballs hit the midsection in the movie, that's not me.
Yeah, that was the original guy.
That was the scene, and most people just thought, well, he's got padding on because I'm a little thicker. I didn't have padding on. That's not me. It's just he was a thicker person than I am, and that was one of the characteristics they weren't satisfied with on the imposing factor when the wardrobe was put on the stuntman and he walked, how he appeared through the camera lens. You got to remember, camera lens changes everything. You know, you may look great right now, but I put you behind a camera and you look goofy. In this case, it was a blessing to me because they weren't satisfied with the physicality of the other person after that one scene was shot, and I got the job.
That's awesome. You got another question for him, or?
Not really.
No?
Well, I got other questions, but it's about the vengeance. If you have any more
okay.
about Jason
So,
or Friday the 13th.
So, one of my questions is, what was it like to act / perform your stunts while wearing that outfit?
I mean, that was the most challenging part. I always tell people, your peripheral vision is gone. So I always say, take your hand and hold it up to your eye like this, and then close your other eye, and that's all you see. You'd be surprised if you do it right now. You're going to go, I don't see anything. That's my point. All you see is 3 to 4 feet in front of you. Your peripheral vision is completely gone. And of course, now you're using all your instincts. You're not just your physicality, but your ability to walk basically blind and put your foot down in front of you and make sure that you don't trip because you don't see what's in front of you, and put that foot down with authority and walk through the role. I go back to earlier what I said about the actors and actresses trust in me to have all this equipment on and still be able to throw them around. And even if I wasn't throwing them around, like the scene with the knife is a good example, they took the mask off me, so I could see what I was doing because the shot is from my chest down.
Right.
When I took Darcy and threw her head into the mobile home and then into a camera lens, I had the mask off, of course. But when I was fighting inside the bathroom of the motor home, I mean, I had the mask on. So I had a good grip on her. And, she, took it upon herself to kick my ass, basically. But that was her job. Her job was to let me physically pick her up off the ground, which I did. And then she just fought tooth and nail and, kneed me, kicked me, anything she wanted to do, pretty much, until I got to the point where I grabbed her head and threw it into a camera lens.
Okay. And I don't pretend to, well, maybe I do pretend to. Obviously, I've never been in a Hollywood film or an actual Friday the 13th film, but I do kind of have an idea as to what it's like to wear the Jason prosthetics because that's like my go-to for every Halloween. If you check my Facebook, now that we're friends on Facebook, you can check my photos. I've got photos of me dressed up like Jason with my recent upgrade, which the upgrade actually came from James Shaver. And I'm sure you've encountered him a few times.
Well, the nice thing about Jason, and this is what I tell everybody, is anybody, I don't care if you're short, tall, medium, round, big, thick, whatever, anybody can put on the Jason wardrobe, and as soon as you put that hockey mask down, your whole demeanor shifts.
You're intimidating.
Absolutely. Now,
Yeah.
see, I do every year. Well, lately, every year I've been doing local haunted woods walk around here, and because they love the Jason that I perform, and I keep telling them, as soon as that mask goes on, don't talk to me because I'm not going to talk to you. I don't care who you are. I don't care if it's an emergency. Don't talk to me because I will not speak to you.
But it's a true statement because when I do photo ops at conventions and people come in for the photo op with me, they're in awe, number one, because my wardrobe is 100% spot on. Size-wise, I'm the same. So here we are 30 years later, and I can still stand there side by side, and you've seen some of my Facebook postings. It's the same as in the movie, like I just stepped out of the movie. They're not worried about this, long as the physicality, the shoulders, waist, everything stays in perspective. But when they come in, I don't talk. Sometimes they'll try to say something to me, and I just look at them. Now, my eyes are blacked out, just so you know, so they can't see my eyeball.
Oh, wow.
So they see these blacked out eyes and nothing else, and they're trying to. And what I usually do is take one of my hands, and I've got pretty good sized hands, and I put them on that shoulder and bring them towards me for the photo op, and they kind of just go, "Holy shit," because I don't want to stand there like a cutout. You know, I mean, I could be smiling behind the hockey mask. You'd never know.
Yeah.
But I don't break character. So when the mask comes down, anybody, boy or girl, again, tall, short, they go into this transformation. They really become that person of scary authority, Jason. And that's cool because that shows how people perceive Jason, that Jason is unbreakable. And for some people that may not feel as strong, they put that mask on for Halloween and they just become a different person in a positive way. I mean that respectfully because it's an opportunity for them now to become the aggressive stand-up person they may not be normal wise. And it's no different than when they put on any other mask, any other costume. You ever notice when somebody puts on a Batman costume, their whole demeanor changes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
You become, because that person is your X-Man or your Marvel's hero that you emulate, and when you put the wardrobe on, they emulate you.
Well, look at cosplaying. Look how much of a big business and industry that is.
It's become huge.
There's Comic-Cons all over the world now. You know?
And he probably goes to 98% of them.
That's awesome. One of these days we'll go. See, he does more of the Jason Friday the 13th stuff. That's why he's doing most of talking. Because this is his topic. He's like in total awe right now, just talking to you at the moment.
And you know, I'm not. And I thought for sure I thought I was gonna have one of those fanboy moments where I just kind of freeze up and
I can't say.
and it's not like that at all. I'm not having a hard time at all.
That's why he's got the 20 questions, and I think I might have 3. So I was like, go on, just keep going, just keep going. But one question I do have is that the buzz about keeping the Friday the 13th going again, like if they took off with it again, what direction would you want them to go in? Would you like them to keep going with the father in the picture and stuff? I think that was a cool introduction to the story. That was awesome right there.
Well, you know, I everybody's an armchair quarterback is what I say. So my opinion is like everybody's ass. Everybody's got one. I mean that respectfully in the sense that I'm not putting myself down. I think if they go into it, number one, they need to come to an understanding between Mr. Cunningham, Mr. Miller. I understand their control factors and who's what. I get that. I respect that. However, you've got fans out there that have been loyal for over 3 decades. It's been about 10 years since a film's been out, and you owe the fans something because your fans have given you the opportunity to fight about what you're fighting about. If they didn't care about your film, and you hadn't made money and become so popular, you wouldn't have what you have today from that film. Now, they're both very successful businessmen in their rights. They really are. And they're both great characters. They're good guys. But at the end of the day, I think we've forgotten or they've forgotten that without the Friday the 13th fan base, the success of the franchise wouldn't be there. So even if they come together temporarily and do one, put it out, put the money into a trust until you're done arguing about who owns what. At least the fans get what they need is what I call a B12 injection of Jason. All right. So as far as the direction, I think they should go back to what it was. I did appreciate Vengeance going back into part 6 and then filtering through what part 7 could have been so they could continue the series in a logistical way. But again, it's easy to be an armchair quarterback. I mean, if I was in charge, we'd shoot 3 of them all within an 8-month window. I'd use the same Jason for all 3 of them, change out my directors, my scripts, get them all shot done, get one out, the other 2 edited, they'd be on the shelves for the next 4 years to be distributed, like a Harry Potter, with some continuity between them. Make sense? I wouldn't change the Jasons because of the physical size. You want to maintain some continuity in that phase, but different directors, different scripts, but they all have to connect. Yeah. So it really could be addressed. I mean, that's an opinion, but it's easy to have an opinion. Personally, I think it'd be fun in the next one to bring all of the Jasons into it as a character and watch either Derek Mears, Kane Hodder, or myself as Jason kill all the Jasons. How cool would that be? Because, well, think about it. Everybody wants to know who Ari is. Well, I think about that. Well, who's Ari? Well, Ari was part 1. Ari is a great rock and roll singer. So all of a sudden there's a band on stage. Ari's the lead singer, and he gets whacked by the new Jason. How cool is that? What about taking a look at, Ted White? What about taking a look at Tom? What about if, hypothetically, if Ken Ken played Jason versus Freddy, all of a sudden Ken is a bus driver and he gets whacked by the new Jason. I think the fans are going to come do it because they want to see what the faces of the Jasons look like historically before the new Jason, whoever that may be, takes over.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Now that's just me, and it's easy to be an armchair quarterback because I don't have to put $15 million into it. But I think the fans would embrace that for the next turnaround. Plus, don't forget the next one technically is part 13. You better do it right.
Right. Yeah, well, exactly. 13. Yeah.
They said that about. They said that about. They've said that about just about every other film that they've done. Oh, you better do it right. And not to veer off of the Friday the 13th subject, but look at what happened to Nightmare on Elm Street when they used Jackie Earle Haley and not Robert Englund. I mean, I know they weren't shooting to get Robert Englund in that role, but when you've had one person who's played that role and it's a distinctive face, that's a hard one to pull off.
Right. Well, I mean, I look at it as Derek Mears did a great job. He played it in 2009. Derek's played a lot of different parts, Predator and other things along his path. And, he's got a passion. He loves improv. He's a good guy. I think he got married this past year, so he's doing really well. Kane Hodder did 4 of them. Again, Ken did a great job with Freddy versus Jason. I think whomever they decide, they should take in consistency. If you could shoot 2 or 3 of them in a row while you've already got the production companies out, you already got the lighting, you've already got the transportation. It's just a matter of changing out directors and scripts and the principal actors and actresses. I think there's an opportunity to really put it on the map for the next 15 years or 10 years and create what it has become, an iconic image.
Yeah. And that to me, that would be the smart way to do it. But what do I know?
You're just a fan, right?
Yeah, I'm just a fan.
Yeah, but they should listen to the fans more. Again, I go back to my success running casino resorts as a general manager or chief operating officer is knowing my expertise and always trying to do what I could for my employees. When you've got 2,500 employees and their families depending on you to make good decisions, and a corporation or a tribe that you work for, a council, sometimes you have to really listen and put your head down to the ground to see what's going on and keep your head out of the clouds. And maybe we've missed that boat a little bit here, but like I said, Tom McLaughlin, the writer director, just recently did some interviews. He's got a new script. He'd like to get in front of Mr. Miller and Mr. Cunningham. I find it intriguing. He's been working on it for a period of time. It's actually he'd like to do it at Camp Crystal Lake, but in the snow. He'd like to do it with, and I'm not sure the specifics. And over the last year, he's talked to me on and off about it. But he's made it quite clear he thinks the best of all the Jasons. But if I felt that I could do it, he'd like to use my physical structure again because the continuity issue going into where he'd like to go with it. He's also made comments that he thinks the murders and everything being shot in the snow and with the ice would just be gory.
And if you're looking at just throwing this out there to you, because I was supposed to have Tom on the show too, but he hasn't had a chance to get back to me. And I planned on touching base on that, on the subject of the film that he's referring to. No better place than Aroostook County, Maine, if you want snow footage.
And I think that's what he's looking at. I understand there are some people that are, have now like latched on that ice concept. Tom was the first one a couple months back that came out with it verbally. And I know sometimes they don't like to do that because everybody latches on to the idea, which is fine. Again, Tom's a great guy. And if he could shoot another one, since he did part 6, part 13 would be a good one to add to his resume. If Derek Mears was called up again, I think he'd do a great job. I think Kane Hodder would do a great job. I don't know if Ken would be interested or not, to be quite honest. Ken, I don't know if you know who he is. He's out of Vancouver, BC. He's 6'6". He's a big man.
I know who Ken Kersinger is.
And I didn't know this, but Ken told me about a year ago that when he shot it, they also put him in a 2-inch platform, so it made him 6'8". And I didn't know why he would look so big, but it was because they put a 2-inch shoe on him.
Oh wow!
And this is nothing against Ken's performance in Freddy vs. Jason, because he did what he was told to do by the director. And again, I'm just a fan, but I think that they should have given Jason a more, or should I say, a less lumbering aspect to him. They just, I don't know, I didn't care for the way that they just made him seem like a big dumb lug that's just killing people because Freddy told him to.
Well, I mean, again, King did a good job. He took ownership on it. Derek Mears did a great job, of course, in 2009. I've always been fortunate because part 6 is in the middle of the series. And at that point, I was the biggest Jason, so I didn't have to walk in anybody's shoes. They had to walk in mine. So I've always been in a good position. I'm the only Jason that has a James Bond opening. I'm the only Jason that has a Rock and Roll Hall of Famer doing the music, Alice Cooper. I'm the only Jason that comes back to life like Frankenstein. And I'm the only Jason that has a Batman utility belt.
The Batman utility belt.
Is that what that was?
That's what I call it. It's a utility belt. I was in the military.
True.
So I mean, if you think about it, it's kind of a unique characteristic. Also, part 6 had no nudity.
Yeah, because there was kids in it.
No nudity. It was straightforward. There was a scene in the mobile home, but there was nothing banging around. And if you think about it, when you look at part 6, there was a little bit of comedy in it too, kind of a Abbott Costello, but didn't make fun of Jason. It was still serious business.
Right.
Yep, and that was part 6, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Part 6 was the only one of the series that didn't have nudity. It was also the only one that actually had children in the film.
True.
And I've had conversations with other Friday the 13th fans that say that they're like, well, why didn't Jason would have killed those kids? I was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think Jason would have ever harmed a kid or even an animal.
Well, you're not old enough to watch Frankenstein of the 60s, but if you go back and look at the Universal Monsters, when Frankenstein goes to the riverside, the little girl hands Frankenstein a daisy, and he just looks at it. Frankenstein doesn't hurt children. Jason doesn't hurt children. Jason hurts teenagers that are acting stupid. Yeah. So, I put a little flavor on it. You think about it, it's no different than looking at the girl, Courtney, and, she pulls the covers over her head. Jason just looking at her curiously, just as Frankenstein was looking at the flower given to him by the girl alongside the river.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. My next question is, what was the most difficult part for you to shoot throughout part 6?
I don't have it difficult because for me, everything was fresh and new. And I didn't find anything to be overly challenging. If anything, it was me fighting myself to make sure I could deliver a product of quality. I did not realize, 30 years ago, the importance that it would bring upon with that hockey mask, the image worldwide that would become. I always tell people that if I went to India and showed them a picture of Tom Cruise, they go, "Hey, Tom Cruise." If I showed them a picture of C.J. Graham, they go, "Okay." But if I change my picture and turn it around to the hockey mask, Jason.
Yeah.
Now, see, I would have guessed that your answer would have been anything concerning you being in the water or on fire.
You know what? It didn't faze me. I was cocky. I was badass.
You were just excited to do it. You're like, yeah, I want to do it.
28, 29 years old. I can do this. I can. I'm Superman. What do you need?
There's absolutely no question in my mind that you definitely delivered, CJ, and then some.
Thank you.
So then, working on Vengeance, what was it like for you to work with Steve Dash?
Well, I mean, until Steve, in fact, I spoke to Steve a week before he passed away, maybe even less than a week after he'd had his leg removed, and he was a little delirious in the hospital. But, for me, it was fun. We didn't work on set the same time. When you do most films, you're kind of in passing. He shot his part in Florida. I shot my part in Seattle.
Oh, I thought you were in the same room together.
No. There's a scene where he hears Elias Voorhees behind him, but if you take a look, it's just a shadow.
Oh.
Movie magic.
Movie magic.
And being a videographer and an editor, you'd think I would have picked up on that.
Yeah, exactly. Movie magic.
I just assumed that it was Elias standing behind him.
Well, it is, because the actual wardrobe is mine. It's just a shadow of a person that threw on the wardrobe to give that shadow effect.
Well, that's like giving away the secrets to a magic trick,
Can't tell you all the secrets.
Well, that's all the questions that I had.
That's all that I've got.
I'm sure by now he's done. He's just about.
He probably had enough of us. Well, him in a ways. He's the big mouth when it comes to Friday the 13th.
My pleasure. You guys, look, I appreciate you guys having me on the show. The fans, I appreciate you guys being fans. I'm humbly appreciative. I will tell you that, we've lost a couple Jasons in the last 4 years. Obviously, Richard and Steve, they bled, not to use blood pun intended, but they bled fans, just so you know. They were and I'm speaking for both of them because I saw them on a regular basis. They loved the fans. Richard was a great storyteller about this movie. Steve Dash will tell you what you don't want to hear. He'll tell you to go piss up a rope. But I'll tell you right now, they've all been part of this iconic roller coaster because of the fans. Again, without the fans, we wouldn't be having this conversation, So I do send out a thank you very much humbly to, them backing us, supporting us. The Legion has become hundreds of thousands of people around the world. I only do a few shows a year. I retired a couple years ago from running casino resorts. Maybe half a dozen. They're out there, like you indicated. They're everywhere. But I kind of pick and choose where I want to go because, when we get done here, I'm going to go feed the horses for the night. I've got to take care of them, and I've got other obligations now that I get to relax and have fun. But I did get a chance to go to London this year. Shortly, in a couple weeks, I'll be going to Tampa, Florida, Spooky Empire. There's some beautiful conventions out there that really embrace Monster Mania, Texas Frightmare, Days of the Dead, and the list goes on. And they keep developing. The cosplay has become so huge that Comic Cons have crossed over to Comic Cons /cosplay /tattoo shows. And the nice thing is, it's become a great big embracement of an environment that different people cross over and enjoy. So for me to be part of that culture, I appreciate it.
Well, maybe someday before I die, you'll make your way up to Maine.
You know, next week I'm going to, or this week I'm going to Canada. Hamilton Comic Con. It's about probably within 200 miles of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't put it out there because your fans are going to call your bluff.
Right.
Well, I have this crazy thing called traveling anxiety, so I try not to travel any more than absolutely necessary. But I do want, like, one of the things in my bucket list is to actually visit Camp Crystal Lake. And I do want to meet. I'd love to meet you in person, Kane Hodder in person. I wouldn't mind Derek Mears or any of the guys that have played Jason. I think that'd be totally badass. And I'm absolutely honored the fact that you accepted my friend request on Facebook. I got a little nervous this morning. I won't lie. When I messaged you, and I know that there's a 3-hour difference. I got no response, and I was like, maybe I should text Ruby just to be safe.
It's all good. Well, you guys both, thank you for inviting me to your show, and continue to grow that fan base for everybody, okay? And you have a great Halloween. Stay out of trouble.
Hopefully I'll do you justice when I dress up as Jason, and hopefully I'll make you proud.
You do a good job, Grasshopper.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye.